I thought my daughter was grieving, until she sold the only thing my dying wife begged me to protect. Imagine coming home after the worst day of your life, still smelling the hospital on your clothes, and discovering that your own daughter, the little girl you raised alone for 22 years, has secretly sold the diamond necklace your wife wore when she took her final breath. My name is Mark Harrison, 51 years old, and 3 days later I received a phone call that turned everything I thought I knew about my family into a nightmare I might not survive. If this story touches your soul, please subscribe to this channel, because every day we share a new story that could one day be yours. Drop a comment and tell us where you're listening from tonight. I read every single one. 6 months ago, my wife Emily left this world after a terrible car accident on Highway 42. That necklace, white gold with a single teardrop diamond, was the only thing she asked me to guard with my life. "Give it to Sarah when she's ready to carry my love," she whispered, her hand ice cold in mine. I promised her I would. Sarah fell apart after we lost Emily. She moved back home, barely spoke, spent hours staring at nothing. I thought the silence was grief. I was wrong. One Tuesday I came home early from the construction site, exhausted and aching for Emily. The small safe in our bedroom closet stood open, empty. The velvet box that held the necklace was gone. Sarah's car was in the driveway, but the house felt hollow. I called her. No answer. Texted. Nothing. My chest tightened with a fear I couldn't name. At 2 a.m. she finally walked in, eyes red, carrying the weight of secrets. "Sarah, where's Mom's necklace?" She froze, then forced a trembling smile. I put it somewhere safe, Dad. Please don't worry." "Somewhere safe isn't an empty safe, sweetheart." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She swore she'd only moved it for protection. I wanted so badly to believe her. 2 days later, I checked our bank account on a hunch that wouldn't let go. $78,000, gone the same day the necklace vanished. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold the phone. That night, I cooked her favorite meal and pretended everything was fine. While she showered, I glanced at her phone she'd left on the counter. One message glowed on the screen from a contact saved only as J. "Money wired. Bring the necklace tomorrow night or you know what happens to both of you." Both of you. My heart stopped. Who was the second person? And why did my daughter need that money so desperately she'd betray the last promise her mother ever made? As the water shut off in the bathroom, Sarah stepped out smiling the same sweet smile she'd had since she was 5. She had no idea I now held proof that everything in our lives was about to shatter, and the next call I received would come from a stranger claiming he'd just bought my wife's necklace from someone who wasn't my daughter. The stranger on the phone knew Emily's last words, words only I heard in that hospital room. I stood frozen in the kitchen, Sarah's phone still warm in my hand. The message from Jay glowed like poison. "Bring the necklace tomorrow night, or you know what happens to both of you." Both of you, the words echoed in my skull. Sarah walked in drying her hair, humming softly, looking so much like Emily at that age it hurt to breathe. I slid the phone back before she noticed and forced a smile that felt like broken glass. That night, sleep never came. At 3:17 a.m., my own phone rang. Unknown number. I answered in a whisper so Sarah wouldn't hear. "Mr. Harrison?" The voice was calm, almost kind. "I believe you're looking for a certain teardrop diamond necklace." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Who is this?" "I purchased it yesterday, cash, from a very shaken young woman who said her name was Sarah Harrison." A pause. "She told me her father was forcing her to sell it to cover debts. Said you'd be furious if you found out." The room tilted. Debts? I hadn't gambled or borrowed a dime in decades. She wasn't telling you the truth, I managed. I'm beginning to see that, he said quietly, especially because the engraving inside reads, "To Emily, forever my heartbeat, MH 1998. That's you, isn't it? I sank onto the edge of the bed. Yes. Then I may have just bought something that doesn't belong to her. His tone darkened. One more thing, she wasn't alone. A man waited outside, tall, a scar across his eyebrow. He never spoke, but he watched the door like he was guarding something precious nor dangerous. Ice slid down my spine. I remembered that scar. Sarah had brought a friend to Emily's funeral. She'd called him Jay, or Jake. Contact Jay. The man continued. I'm sending you a photo right now. My phone buzzed. I opened it with shaking fingers. There was the necklace, my necklace resting against a woman's collarbone, long auburn hair, Emily's gentle smile. The photo was taken only hours ago. Mr. Harrison, the man said softly, tell me honestly, is your wife truly gone? I couldn't speak. The woman in the picture wore the same pale hospital gown I'd last seen on Emily, same room number on the wall behind her, 312. I remembered because I'd memorized every detail of that awful night. I was there when they closed the casket, I whispered. Then explain this, he said, because the woman wearing your wife's necklace tonight introduced herself as Emily Harrison. The call ended. I stared at the dark screen until my eyes burned. When I finally stood, legs unsteady, Sarah was in the hallway in her pajamas, eyes wide with worry. Dad, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I looked at my daughter, the little girl who once begged me to check for monsters under her bed, and for the first time in my life, I felt real fear standing in my own home, because tomorrow night she was supposed to deliver something else to the man with the scar. And I had less than 24 hours to discover whether the love of my life was somehow still breathing, or if my own child was about to drag us both into something we would never escape. I opened Sarah's dresser drawer and found Mum's hospital bracelet hidden under her clothes. I didn't close my eyes that night. At dawn, I heard Sarah's door open, then the soft click of the front door. Her car started and faded down the street. The second she was gone, I slipped into her room. The air felt heavy, like secrets had weight. Drawers half closed, bed unmade, vanilla perfume mixed with something sharp, fear maybe. On the dresser lay a plastic hospital bracelet, the kind they place on a patient's wrist and never remove until the end. Name: Harrison, Emily R. Room, 312. The last line had been carefully scratched out with black ink. My heart forgot how to beat. That was the bracelet I'd watched the nurse slide off Emily's wrist the night I said goodbye forever. I turned it over. Someone had written inside in tiny blue letters, Phase 2 tonight, don't trust M. M me. Under the bracelet was a Polaroid. The same auburn-haired woman from the stranger's photo, sitting on a motel bed, necklace shining against pale skin. Her eyes, Emily's eyes, were glassy, distant, full of silent pleading. On the nightstand, a syringe and stacks of cash. On the back, in Sarah's handwriting, if he finds out she's still here, he'll come for both of us. I felt the floor drop away. Emily, alive? After the funeral? After the closed casket? The front door opened downstairs. Sarah was back already. I slipped the bracelet and photo into my pocket and walked out as calmly as I could. She looked up from the kitchen, startled. Dad, I just went for coffee. Her phone buzzed. She reached for it, but I was faster. Message from Jay. Bring the second package tonight. Room 8, Starlight Motel. Buyer wants to see Mum in person. No police, or she vanishes forever. Mum. Sarah's face drained of color. Dad, please give me the phone. Mom, I repeated, my voice barely air. You mean the mother we buried 6 months ago? She started crying, real tears that broke my heart all over again. It's not what you think. Then help me understand the bracelet, Sarah. Help me understand why someone is wearing Mom's necklace and looks exactly like her. She backed against the counter, shaking her head. I can't. They'll take her away forever. They already hurt her so much, Dad. Look. She rolled up her sleeve. Dark, painful marks circled her forearm in the shape of a letter J. My little girl had been branded with fear. For one heartbreaking moment, all I wanted was to hold her and make the world safe again. Then her phone buzzed once more. A new photo. The woman, Emily, bound to a bed, eyes wide with terror, staring straight into the camera. Caption, Midnight, Daddy, or Mommy disappears piece by piece. Sarah whispered through sobs. They said if I got them $100,000 by tonight, they'd let her go. The necklace was only the beginning. I stared at my daughter, at the marks on her arm, at the agony in her eyes, and realized the most terrifying truth of all. Someone had planned this nightmare from the night of the accident, and the next sound I heard wasn't a text. It was Emily's voice, weak and trembling through the phone speaker. Mark, don't pay them, it's all a trap. Then a cold, familiar laugh in the background, and silence. The man at my door wore a police jacket, and the same scar I'd seen at my wife's funeral. I stood in the hallway clutching Sarah's phone, the terrifying photo still glowing on the screen, when the doorbell rang. 2 figures in police windbreakers waited on the porch. Sarah's breath caught. She went white as paper. Through the frosted glass, the taller one removed his sunglasses. The scar across his left eyebrow. Jake. The man from the funeral. The man called Jay. He smiled and mouthed 2 silent words. Open up. Sarah gripped my arm so hard it hurt. I eased her behind me, heart pounding, and cracked the door just enough. Badges don't hide scars, Jake. His smile never wavered. Smart, Mark. I'm not here to cause trouble, just delivering an invitation. He held up a small black gift box tied with ribbon. Midnight moved up. Buyers impatient. 8 p.m. tonight, room 8, Starlight Motel. Bring the rest of the money and come alone, or Emily says goodbye forever. He slid the box through the gap. It landed softly on the mat. Inside was Emily's wedding ring resting on cotton-stained dark red. Sarah let out a broken sound and buried her face in my shoulder. I shut the door, locked it, and pulled her into the kitchen before my own legs gave out. 4 hours. Not a full day. 4 hours. I wrapped the ring in tissue and placed it gently in my pocket, telling myself it was only a warning, not the end. Hope was all I had left. Sarah was trembling uncontrollably. He'll never let her go, Dad. The buyer doesn't want a witness. He wants everything tied up neatly. I took her tear-streaked face in my hands. Then we stopped playing by his rules. Something inside me woke up, the part that once ran construction crews through storms and deadlines. I opened the hidden safe behind the water heater. Inside, the emergency cash Emily and I had saved for Sarah's future, and my old service revolver I'd prayed I'd never touch again. Sarah watched me count the money. Dad, there are too many of them. Then we don't fight fair, I said quietly. I called Tommy Reyes, my most loyal foreman, the man Jake had framed and nearly destroyed last year. Tommy answered on the first ring. I told him everything in one breath. Silence, then. Starlight Motel, I've got a truck idling 2 blocks away. Say the word, brother. Sarah looked at me, eyes shining with a mix of terror and something new. Resolve. Mom always said the only way to beat darkness is to shine brighter, she whispered. I slipped Emily's ring onto my own finger for safekeeping and met my daughter's gaze. Get your jacket. We're going to bring your mother home tonight, and then we make sure no one ever hurts this family again. As we stepped into the rain, neither of us knew the buyer waiting in that motel room wasn't a stranger from Miami. He was someone I'd already mourned once. The man waiting in room 8 wore the watch I'd fastened around my brother's wrist the day we said goodbye. We pulled into the Starlight Motel at 7:51 p.m. Rain hammered the windshield, turning the cracked parking lot into a dark mirror. 2 blocks away, Tommy's truck waited in the shadows, engine idling ready. Room 8's door opened before we knocked. The man who stepped out was tall, silver-haired, expensive coat. On his wrist glinted the steel watch I'd placed on my brother David's arm the morning of his funeral 6 years ago. David, my only brother. Lost in a warehouse fire everyone called an accident. The man smiled like we were old friends. Mark, right on time. I do appreciate punctuality. My voice left me. All I could see was that watch. He noticed. Ah, you remember this. He lifted his wrist so the neon caught the face. Your brother begged for mercy when the smoke got too thick. Such a waste. Sarah made a small, wounded sound beside me. He gestured inside. Bring the money. Bring the girl. Leave the fear outside. The room smelled of bleach and old secrets. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, wrists and ankles bound with plastic ties, a strip of tape across her mouth. She was thinner, fragile, but her eyes found mine and filled with desperate light. Jake stood behind her, hand resting possessively on her shoulder. 2 silent men guarded the corners. The silver-haired man closed the door softly. I'm Victor Lang. Your brother used to keep my books. When he decided honesty was worth more than breathing, I let fire finish the conversation. Then I discovered Emily was even better with numbers. She's been helping me from this room for 6 long months. Quite the dedicated employee. Emily shook her head, eyes pleading. Victor continued almost kindly. Tonight, she completes one final transfer. 100 million to a quiet island account. Then all loose ends disappear as quietly. He took the duffel from Sarah, checked the cash, nodded. This covers the necklace. The rest is the transfer. He slid a laptop towards Sarah. Log in, sweetheart. Same password you've been using to keep your mother breathing. Sarah's hands shook so badly the computer almost fell. Victor sighed. Jake, remind her what's at stake. Jake's grip tightened on Emily's shoulder. She closed her eyes, tears slipping free. That's when I stepped forward, voice steady for the first time all night. Let my family go, Victor. He smiled sadly. Lower your hopes, Mark. This story was written long before you walked in. Then Sarah did something that changed everything. She met Victor's eyes and spoke, calm and clear. You're too late. The transfer already happened. Victor's smile froze. Sarah turned the laptop. The screen showed a federal confirmation. Transfer complete recipient. FBI evidence account amount, $100,000. Reference, Victor Lang, racketeering investigation. Victor lunged for the laptop. Every light in the motel went dark, and in the blackness Emily whispered the words I'd waited 6 months to hear again. I never stopped fighting for us, Mark. Not for 1 second. In the darkness, the motel wall gave way, and justice came roaring in like thunder. The room plunged into absolute black. Then came the roar. An engine, massive and unstoppable. Headlights blazed through dust and debris as Tommy's truck tore through the cinder block wall like it was cardboard. Bricks rained down, but the scream of the engine drowned every other sound. Victor stumbled backward, eyes wide with shock. Jake tried to pull Emily with him, but Sarah was faster. In the chaos, she reached her mother, yanked the tape away, and whispered, "It's over, Mum. You're safe." I dropped to Emily's side, shielding her with my body as the dust settled. Sirens were already closing in, red and blue lights painting the broken walls. Victor scrambled for the laptop, shouting, "Abort it! Abort the transfer!" Sarah's voice rose above the noise, steady and unbreakable. "It's done, Victor. Every account, every hidden shell company, every dollar you stole, the FBI has it all. Mom never worked for you. She worked against you. Every keystroke was evidence." Emily's weak hand found mine. "I'm sorry I had to stay away," she whispered, tears mixing with dust on her cheeks. "They threatened to hurt you and Sarah if I didn't cooperate. I had to protect you the only way I could." Victor's face twisted with rage. "You think this ends with me? I'm only the messenger, the real owner." A sharp crack cut the air, like a branch snapping in the cold. Victor froze, then crumpled silently to the floor. No one in the room had fired. FBI agents in tactical gear flooded through the new opening Tommy had created, shouting, "Clear, clear!" A female agent I recognized, the nurse from the hospital that awful night, knelt beside us. "Package secure," she said into her radio, then softer to Emily. "Welcome home, Mrs. Harrison, we've got you." Outside, the rain had stopped. The night smelled clean for the first time in months. Emily clung to Sarah and me, the three of us shaking together in the middle of the wreckage. Tommy stood by his truck, arms crossed, grinning through the dust. "Figured the place could use a remodel, boss." I laughed through tears I didn't know I still had left, as agents wrapped blankets around Emily and led Victor's men away in cuffs. One of the lead investigators pulled me aside. "Mark, that shot that ended Lang, it didn't come from our team." My blood went cold again. He showed me the trajectory sketch on his tablet. The round had come from somewhere high and far outside the motel property, maybe even the next county. Someone else had been watching tonight. Someone who wanted Victor silenced before he named the real mastermind. Emily squeezed my hand, reading my face. "It's not over, is it?" she whispered. I looked at my wife, alive, breathing finally in my arms, and at Sarah, my brave, broken, beautiful daughter, who had carried terror on her shoulders for half a year to keep her mother breathing. "No," I said quietly, "but whatever comes next, we face it together, as a family." Because for the first time in 6 months, we were whole again, but somewhere out there in the dark, a scope was still warm, and a name Victor never got to speak was still waiting to destroy us. The FBI agent handed me a single playing card, the Queen of Spades, with Emily's lipstick on it. We sat wrapped in silver emergency blankets while medics checked Emily's vitals. The motel parking lot looked like a movie set, swirling lights, radios crackling, agents taking statements. Sarah hadn't let go of her mother's hand once. The lead investigator, Special Agent Carla Ruiz, walked over carrying a small evidence bag. Inside was a playing card, the Queen of Spades. A faint red lipstick print kissed the corner. "This was taped under Victor Lang's watch," she said quietly. "Same shade your wife wore the night of the accident. We found it when we processed him." Emily stared at the card like it might bite. "That's mine," she whispered. "They took it from my purse the night they staged everything. I thought it was just a cruel joke." Agent Ruiz's eyes softened. "Mrs. Harrison, Victor wasn't the top of the chain. He was terrified of someone he only called the Queen. Every offshore account Emily helped freeze tonight routes back to shell companies registered to a single holding group, Black Orchid Limited. We've been chasing them for 8 years. Human trafficking, money laundering, contract disappearances. They don't leave loose ends." I felt the old fear crawl back into my chest. Ruiz continued. "The sniper who ended Victor tonight wasn't cleaning up for us. He was cleaning up for them. They just lost $100 million in 6 months of careful work because of your family. That makes all 3 of you loose ends." Sarah's voice was small. "So what happens now?" "Witness protection," Ruiz answered without hesitation. "New names, new state tonight. We can keep you safe." Emily looked at me, then at Sarah, and slowly shook her head. "No," she said, soft but firm. "Running is what kept me away from my family for 6 months. I won't lose them again." Ruiz started to argue, but I raised my hand. "Give us 1 hour," I said. "Just one." She studied us for a long moment, then nodded once and walked away. Emily pulled Sarah and me into the back of an ambulance, away from the noise. The doors closed, giving us the first private moment we'd had in half a year. Emily cupped Sarah's face. "Baby, those marks on your arm, I saw them tonight. I need you to know I never stopped fighting. Every day I was gone, I was trying to get back to you." Sarah started crying again, but this time it sounded like healing. Emily turned to me. "Mark, there's something I never told the agents. One night when they thought I was too drugged to listen, Victor took a call. The person on the other end, he called her Mom. She asked about the necklace, said it wasn't just collateral, it was a message, a signature. The Queen of Spades collects things that belong to people she's removed." A chill settled over all 3 of us. Then Emily reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny flash drive taped to the inside of her hospital bracelet, the one Sarah had hidden in her room. Every file, every recording, every name Victor thought I was hiding for him. It's all here, including the real owner's voice. She pressed it into my hand. "If we disappear tonight, they'll just wait. Years, decades. They'll find us. But if we finish what I started..." Sarah finished the sentence. "We end them first." I looked at my wife and daughter, 2 warriors wrapped in blankets, and felt something stronger than fear rise inside me. Family. I slipped the drive into my pocket next to Emily's wedding ring. 1 hour, I repeated. Outside the ambulance doors, Agent Ruiz was waiting. But we weren't running anymore, we were going hunting. Agent Ruiz opened the evidence folder, and the face staring back at me was someone I'd once called family. Agent Carla Ruiz led us to a mobile command trailer parked behind the ruined motel. The rain had started again, soft and steady, like the night was crying for everything we'd lost and found. Inside, the trailer glowed with screens and quiet urgency. Ruiz locked the door, then placed a thick red folder on the table. "Before you decide anything," she said, "you need to see who the Queen of Spades really is." She opened the folder. A surveillance photo slid out. A woman in her late 50s, elegant silver hair, ice blue eyes, standing on a yacht deck holding the exact teardrop necklace. My stomach dropped so hard I had to grip the table. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Sarah whispered, "No, That's impossible. The woman in the photo was Claire Harrison, my wife's older sister, the Aunt Sarah had adored growing up, the same Claire who'd stood beside me at Emily's funeral, tears streaming, promising to help me raise Sarah. Claire who'd vanished to Europe right after the service and hadn't answered a single call since. Ruiz's voice was gentle but firm. Claire Harrison legally changed her name 15 years ago to Claire Blackwood. She's the silent partner behind Black Orchid Limited. We believe she orchestrated your brother's warehouse fire, Mark. She needed his construction routes to move product. When David started asking questions, she removed him. Emily was shaking her head. Claire and I were never close, but this? She used to send Sarah birthday cards with $100 bill inside. Ruiz slid another photo across. Claire at a charity gala, arm-linked with Victor Lang, both smiling like royalty. She didn't just want money, Ruiz continued. She wanted control. When Emily discovered irregularities in the family trust Claire managed, Emily started quietly gathering proof. Claire found out. Instead of silencing her permanently, Claire chose something crueler. She staged the accident, faked Emily's death and kept her alive as a puppet accountant, while tormenting the rest of the family from afar. Sarah's voice cracked. All those texts from Jake was taking orders from Aunt Claire. Ruiz nodded. Every burn mark, every threat, every tear you cried, Claire designed it. The necklace wasn't collateral. It was her signature. She collects one personal item from every life she breaks. A trophy case. I stared at Claire's smiling face until it blurred. All those years she'd played the perfect aunt. Christmas mornings, graduation gifts, late-night calls when Emily and I fought. Every kindness had been a mask. Emily's hand found mine under the table. She wanted to prove no one could touch her, she whispered. Not even family. Ruiz closed the folder. We can arrest her within 48 hours if we move now. But Claire has private security, offshore safe houses, and friends in very high places. Once she knows Victor is gone and the money is frozen, she'll disappear forever. Sarah looked up, eyes red but fierce. Then we don't wait 48 hours. Emily squeezed my hand tighter. We have the flash drive. We have Claire's own voice admitting everything. What if we don't run? And we don't wait? What if we make her come to us? Ruiz studied us for a long moment, then gave the smallest smile I'd ever seen on a federal agent. I can't officially help you set a trap, she said, but I can look the other way for 12 hours. She slid a burner phone across the table. One call, one chance. So I picked it up and stared at the empty contact list. Somewhere across an ocean, Claire was already packing her escape bag. In 12 hours, she would either vanish forever or walk straight into the family she tried to bury. I dialed the only number Claire still answered, and the voice that picked up was ice wrapped in silk. The burner phone felt heavier than any tool I'd ever lifted on a job site. Emily and Sarah sat on either side of me in the quiet trailer, shoulders touching, breathing in unison. Agent Ruiz had stepped outside to give us the space we needed. I pressed call. 3 rings. Then the voice I hadn't heard in 6 months, smooth, amused, familiar in the worst way. Emily's grip tightened on my arm. Sarah stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. I forced the words out. Victor's gone. The money's gone. Emily's sitting right here next to me, breathing. Another pause, longer this time. Claire's tone shifted, velvet over steel. Well, miracles do happen. Tell my sister I'm delighted she's feeling better. Emily leaned toward the phone. Stop pretending, Claire. We have everything, every file, every recording. Your voice giving orders. It's over. Claire sighed like a disappointed mother. "Nothing is ever over, darling. You should know that by now." I took the opening. "Then come finish it yourself, 1 hour. The old family lake house, no security, no agents, just us. You get the flash drive, we walk away, and you disappear like you always planned." Sarah's eyes went wide. She hadn't expected me to offer the one thing that could destroy Claire forever. Emily gave the tiniest nod. "Trust me." Claire was quiet so long, I thought the call had dropped. Finally, "You always were sentimental about that crumbling lake house, Mark. Fine, 1 hour. But if I see a single extra car, a single drone in the sky, I vanish, and your precious daughter spends the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. Understood?" "Understood," I said. She ended the call without another word. Sarah whispered, "Dad, we can't give her the real drive." "We're not going to," I answered. Emily smiled for the first time all night, small, tired, but real. "We're giving her something much better." Agent Ruiz stepped back in the second the call ended. She'd heard everything through the open channel. "The lake house is perfect," she said. "Remote, 1 road in and out, surrounded by water on 3 sides. My team can be invisible." I shook my head. "She'll know. She always checks." Ruiz studied me, then smiled the same way she had earlier. "Then we won't be on the ground. We'll be in the air and under the water. She won't see us coming." Emily placed her hand over mine and Sarah's. "Claire taught me how to play chess when we were kids," she said quietly. "She always sacrificed pawns to protect the queen." Sarah finished the thought, voice steady. "Tonight we flip the board. We had 58 minutes to turn the place where we once celebrated birthdays and anniversaries into the trap that would finally end 20 years of secrets." As we drove north through the rain, Emily resting against my shoulder, Sarah asleep in the back seat for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, fragile, fierce, and growing, because the Queen of Spades was coming home, and this time the Harrison family would be ready. The lake house porch light flickered on, and Claire stepped out of the darkness wearing the necklace like a crown. We reached the old lake house just after midnight. The rain had softened to mist, silvering the pine trees and turning the water into black glass. Every childhood summer, every anniversary, every memory of laughter lived inside these walls. Tonight it would host something darker. Agent Ruiz's team had vanished into the night. Divers beneath the dock, snipers in the tree line, drones silent above the clouds. To Claire, the house would look exactly as I promised. Empty, waiting, sentimental. Emily, Sarah, and I sat in the living room, lit only by the fireplace. Emily wore a blanket around her shoulders like armor. Sarah clutched a small wooden box, our decoy. Headlights swept the gravel drive. One black SUV, doors opened and closed. Then heels on the porch boards I'd rebuilt myself 20 years ago. The front door opened without a knock. Claire stood framed in moonlight, wearing a long charcoal coat and, around her throat, Emily's teardrop necklace, gleaming like a single tear frozen in time. She smiled the same smile from every Christmas photo. "Hello, family." Emily stood first. "Take off the necklace, Claire. It never belonged to you." Claire's fingers brushed the diamond. "Everything eventually belongs to the one strong enough to keep it." Her gaze moved to me. "You look tired, Mark. Grief ages a man so quickly." Sarah's voice cut through the room, small but unshaking. "We have what you came for." She held up the wooden box. Claire's eyes lit with hunger. "The real drive." "Everything," I said. "Your voice, your accounts, names of judges, senators, police chiefs. One copy exists. You take it, you disappear forever. We get to live." Claire stepped deeper into the room, heels echoing. And you trust me to keep my word? No, Emily answered softly. We trust you to be exactly who you've always been. Claire laughed, low and delighted. Then let's not drag this out. She reached for the box. Sarah pulled it back an inch. First, tell us why. Why David? Why me? Why keep me breathing just to break us every day? Claire's smile faded into something almost human. Because you were the spare, darling. Emily was the threat. You were the leash. Every time you cried, every time you begged Jake not to hurt your mother again, Emily worked faster. Fear is the best motivator. Emily's voice trembled with 20 years of pain. You were my sister. I was tired of being the shadow, Claire whispered. You got the perfect husband, the perfect daughter, the perfect life. I built an empire in the dark so no one could ever take anything from me again. Silence wrapped the room. Then Claire extended her hand. The box, now. Sarah opened it slowly. Inside lay a single flash drive, black, unmarked. Claire snatched it, triumphant. The moment her fingers closed around it, every light in the house blazed on. Agent Ruiz's voice came over hidden speakers. Claire Blackwood, you are under arrest for racketeering, conspiracy, and multiple counts of... Claire's face twisted into pure rage. She spun toward the door, but it was already blocked by agents. She looked back at us, breathing hard. You think this ends me? Half the people arresting me tonight are on my payroll. Emily stepped forward until they were inches apart. No, Claire, tonight ends you. Claire lunged, not for the door, but for Emily. I moved without thinking, catching her wrist. For one heartbeat, the two sisters stared at each other across 20 years of betrayal. Then Claire whispered, so only we could hear, "Checkmate, little sister," and crushed the flash drive in her hand. She crushed the drive and smiled like she'd already won. The black plastic pieces scattered across the hardwood floor like dark confetti. Claire's smile was pure victory. Agent Ruiz and her team froze in the doorway, weapons half raised, unsure what had just happened. Claire opened her hand. Nothing remained but dust and broken circuits. "Oops," she said softly. "Looks like your only evidence just committed suicide." Emily went pale. Sarah made a small, wounded sound. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. 6 months of pain, 1 night of hope, and now, nothing? Claire turned to Ruiz with theatrical sadness. "I believe you'll find I'm the victim here. Kidnapped, forced to wear my dead sister's jewelry, terrorized by my own family. My lawyers will be in touch." She started for the door like she owned the night. That's when Sarah laughed, small, broken, but real. Claire stopped. Sarah lifted her phone. The screen glowed with a live recording icon. "Hi, Aunt Claire," she said, voice trembling but clear. "Say that again for the 3 million people watching right now." Claire's composure cracked for the first time. Sarah continued stronger. "Dad set the burner call on speaker. I streamed the entire conversation to a private server the second we left the motel. Every word you just said, about fear being the best motivator, about building your empire, about me being the leash, is already uploaded. Encrypted. Permanent. The link went live to every major news outlet and the FBI's public corruption tip line 30 seconds ago." Claire lunged for the phone. 2 agents caught her arms instantly. Emily stepped forward, eyes shining with tears and something fiercer. "You taught me chess, remember," she said quietly. "You forgot the most important rule. Never play against someone who's willing to sacrifice the queen to protect the king." Claire struggled, elegant mask finally gone. "You have no idea what you've done. They'll come for all of you." Ruiz snapped cuffs on her wrists, real ones this time. "Claire Blackwood, those recordings, combined with 6 months of financial records Mrs. Harrison gathered, are more than enough. You're done." As they led her toward the door, Claire looked back one last time. For a single heartbeat, The sister Emily once knew flickered across her face, hurt, lost, furious. Then the mask slammed back down. "You'll never be safe," she whispered. "Not really." The door closed behind her. Silence rang louder than any gunshot. Sarah dropped to her knees, phone clattering, and started sobbing. Relief, exhaustion, everything at once. Emily and I sank down with her, wrapping her in our arms right there on the cold floor. Outside, dawn was beginning to touch the lake silver. Ruiz knelt beside us. The stream already has 4 million views and climbing. Hashtags are trending worldwide. Whatever friends Claire thought she had left, they're cutting ties faster than we can count. You just made her the most wanted woman on the planet. Emily looked up, voice raw. "Is it really over?" Ruiz smiled, tired but genuine. "For tonight, yes. Tomorrow we start the trials. But tonight, you won." I held my family so close I could feel both their heartbeats. After 6 months of darkness, the three of us were finally, truly together. But as the first ray of sunrise slipped through the windows, I couldn't shake Claire's last words. "You'll never be safe." Not really. Because queens don't fall quietly, and somewhere a board was still waiting to be flipped again. 3 weeks later, the news called it justice, but a new envelope arrived with no stamp and no return address. The world moved fast after the lake house. Claire's arrest dominated every headline. The recordings Sarah streamed went viral overnight. Millions watched the moment the mask fell. Politicians distanced themselves. Banks froze accounts. Private jets were grounded. Black Orchid Limited crumbled like a house of cards in a hurricane. We moved into temporary protection while the trials were prepared. A quiet farmhouse 2 states away, surrounded by cornfields and guarded by agents who became more like friends. Emily gained weight, Sarah slept through the night, and I learned how to smile again without checking over my shoulder every second. One October morning, an agent handed me a plain white envelope that had been left on the porch railing. No stamp, no address. Just 3 handwritten words on the front in elegant ink. For the king. Inside was a single Polaroid, the lake house at sunset, taken from the water. On the back, in Claire's unmistakable handwriting, "Pawns can be promoted. Enjoy your crown while it lasts." My blood turned to ice. Agent Ruiz arrived within the hour. She studied the photo, the writing, the lack of fingerprints or DNA. "It's a message," she said quietly. "She's reminding you she still has pieces on the board." Sarah read it over my shoulder and laughed, but it was a tired laugh. "She's in federal custody, solitary, no visitors, no mail, no internet. How?" Ruiz's face was grim. "Claire spent 20 years building loyalty money can't buy. There are people who believe she's a queen in exile. Some of them are inside the system." Emily took the photo from my hand and held it to the kitchen window until the sunrise burned through the image. "Then we stopped waiting for the next move," she said, voice steady as steel. "We finished the game." That afternoon, Emily sat down with prosecutors and handed over a second flash drive, one she'd never told anyone about, not even me, hidden inside the lining of the hospital bracelet she'd worn for 6 months. Insurance, she called it. It contained names Claire thought were erased forever. Judges, customs officials, even 2 U.S. senators. Direct payments, recorded calls, private flight logs, enough to bring down an empire twice. Within days, new arrests lit up the news like fireworks. Safe houses were raided from Miami to Marseille. The last threads of Black Orchid snapped one by one. Claire was moved to a Supermax facility under a new identity. They say she screamed when they took her necklace. The teardrop diamond had been replaced with cubic zirconia months ago, a final quiet victory. On the first frost of November, Sarah planted a small rose bush outside the farmhouse, in memory of every day we lost. Emily and I stood with her, arms around each other, watching the sun set gold and fearless. Agent Ruiz's final visit was short. "It's over," she said, handing me back the burned Polaroid. "Every last account is seized. Every last name is in custody. Claire will never see daylight again." As her car disappeared down the long gravel road, Emily rested her head on my shoulder. "Do you believe her?" she asked softly. I looked at my wife, my daughter, the quiet fields stretching peaceful in every direction. "I believe in us," I said. And for the first time in 20 years, the board was finally clear. 6 months later, on the exact day Claire's sentence became final, a single text arrived from a blocked number. "Checkmate, little sister." We had just started to believe in mornings again. Emily was laughing in the kitchen, flour on her cheeks, teaching Sarah how to make the cinnamon rolls we used to eat every Christmas. I was on the porch drinking coffee, watching the snow dust the rosebush Sarah planted. Life felt gentle. Then my phone buzzed on the railing. Blocked number. One line. "Checkmate, little sister." Below it, a photo of the teardrop necklace, our necklace resting against pale skin in what looked like a prison visitation room. My cup slipped from my hand and shattered. Emily ran out at the sound, Sarah right behind her. One look at my face, and they knew. Emily took the phone with steady fingers. Her own hand didn't shake, but her voice did. "She's supposed to be in solitary. No contact, no possessions. How?" Sarah was already dialing Agent Ruiz. Voicemail. I stared at the necklace in the photo. The diamond caught the light exactly the way it used to on Emily's throat when she danced with me in our old living room. Emily zoomed in on the background, a reflection in the glass partition, just enough to see a number on a prison jumpsuit. Not Claire's number. The jumpsuit belonged to a woman we'd never seen before. Sarah whispered, "Someone's wearing Mum's necklace inside the prison for her." Ruiz called back 20 frantic minutes later, voice tight. "There was an incident this morning," she said. "A new inmate transferred in yesterday. Short sentence, low security. She asked to visit Claire Blackwood. Routine approval, no red flags. During the visit, the inmate passed something small under the table. Guards caught it on camera but couldn't see what it was. 10 minutes later, the inmate was found unconscious in her cell. Overdose. She's alive but brain dead. No ID, no fingerprints in the system, no family." Emily closed her eyes. "The necklace." "Gone," Ruiz confirmed. "Claire was searched top to bottom after the visit. Nothing. Either she's hiding it or someone took it from her the second the cameras looked away." I felt the old darkness trying to crawl back in. Sarah asked the question we were all thinking. So Claire still has people loyal enough to die for her. Or, Ruiz said quietly, someone new just declared themselves the next queen. That night we sat around the kitchen table, the three of us, the way we used to when Sarah was small and afraid of thunderstorms. Emily broke the silence. "We can keep running. New names again. Another country." Sarah looked at her, then at me. "Or we stop letting ghosts write our story." I took both their hands. "Claire wanted us to live in fear forever," I said. "She lost. Whatever this is, a copycat, a disciple, a final game, it ends the same way. We choose light." Emily smiled, tired, fierce, beautiful. "Then tomorrow," she said, "we go home. The real home. We hang Mum's necklace back where it belongs, and we live loud enough that no shadow can ever cover us again." Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and forgiving. Somewhere far away a diamond waited, but for the first time we weren't afraid of what it meant. We were ready to write the final chapter ourselves. We hung Mum's necklace on the mantel, and the doorbell rang at exactly 3:33 a.m. We moved back to our real house the very next week. No more safe houses, no more borrowed names. The porch light stayed on every night, the doors stayed unlocked for the first time in years, and Emily wore the necklace again, cleaned, blessed, and returned to us by the FBI as evidence no longer needed. Life became ordinary in the best way. School runs, Friday pizza nights, Emily humming while she gardened. Sarah started talking about grad school again. I took a small construction job nearby just to feel sawdust under my nails. We were healing out loud. Then came the night that almost broke us all over again. 3:33 a.m. The doorbell chimed. Once, polite, patient. I was downstairs before the second note finished, pistol in one hand, phone in the other. Emily and Sarah were right behind me, barefoot in pajamas, eyes wide, but unafraid. Through the peephole, no one. On the welcome mat sat a single black playing card, Queen of Spades, a perfect red lipstick kiss on the corner. Emily's shade. I opened the door. Cold air, empty street, snow just starting to fall. Sarah picked up the card with trembling fingers. On the back, written in handwriting we didn't recognize. A queen never abdicates. She simply crowns another. Emily took the card, turned it over once, and did something I'll never forget. She laughed. Not bitter, not afraid. Pure, defiant joy. She stepped onto the porch in her bare feet, held the card high above her head, and let the wind rip it from her fingers. We watched it spin away into the dark like a wounded bird. "Let them come," she said, voice ringing clear in the frozen night. "We're not hiding anymore." Sarah joined her, then me. The three of us stood on our own porch under the porch light, snowflakes melting on our faces, daring the darkness to try again. Nothing answered. The next morning, Agent Ruiz called. The inmate who smuggled the necklace? She woke up from the coma overnight. First words out of her mouth, "Tell the Harrisons the game is over. The Queen is dead." Then she gave us a full confession. Names, routes, remaining accounts. Said someone paid her $500,000 to deliver that final message. But when she saw your family on every news channel living free and happy, she couldn't do it. She chose a different path. Ruiz paused. "Claire suffered a massive stroke in her cell last night. Doctors say she has hours, maybe less. She asked to see Emily one last time. Emily didn't even hesitate. 'Tell her no,' she said gently. 'Some doors stay closed for good.' That afternoon, we drove to the cemetery where we once thought Emily was buried. We placed a single white rose on the empty grave that had haunted us for so long. Then we went home, made hot chocolate, and hung a new family photo above the fireplace, right beside the necklace that had started it all. The Queen of Spades was gone, and the Harrison family finally truly won. "End," I said as I pulled Emily and Sarah close, "because some stories don't end with revenge. They end with love loud enough to silence every shadow forever." 1 year to the day after we came home, a letter arrived addressed to all three of us and in Claire's handwriting. Spring again. The rosebush Sarah planted was heavy with red blooms. Emily's laugh floated from the kitchen where she and Sarah were arguing over whose turn it was to burn the pancakes. I was on the porch sanding the railing, letting the sun warm my back, when the mail truck stopped. The driver handed me a thick cream envelope. No return address, just 3 names written in perfect familiar cursive: Mark, Emily, and Sarah Harrison. My heart gave one hard thud. Inside was a single sheet of heavy stationery and a small velvet pouch. Emily and Sarah came out at the sound of my sharp breath. We stood together, shoulders touching, and I read aloud. "My dearest family, If you are reading this, I am gone, truly gone this time. I spent my last conscious weeks writing letters like this one, hundreds of them, scheduled to arrive on this exact day through a lawyer who feared me more than he feared the law. Most contain instructions to hurt you. I want you to know I burned every single one except this. You won. Not because you were stronger or smarter, but because you chose love when I only ever understood power. That choice broke something in me I didn't know could break. Inside the pouch is the real teardrop diamond, the one you wore the night of the accident, Emily. The prison replica was my last lie. I kept the original hidden in my cell, touching it when no one watched, remembering the little sister who once shared secrets with me under the covers. I never deserved you. Wear it, sell it, throw it in the lake. Do whatever brings you peace. It belongs to the light now. I have no right to ask forgiveness. I only ask that you live so brightly, my darkness becomes a footnote no one remembers. Goodbye. Claire. Emily opened the pouch with shaking fingers. The diamond caught the morning sun and scattered rainbows across the porch floor. Real, warm from her hand. Sarah started crying first. Quiet, cleansing tears. Emily followed. I wrapped my arms around both of them and let my own fall. We didn't speak for a long time. Eventually, Emily slipped the necklace around her neck where it had always belonged. Sarah took a photo of the three of us on the porch steps, messy hair, wet faces, diamond shining, and posted it with one simple caption. The Queen fell, the family rose. This is what healing looks like. Within hours, the photo was everywhere. Messages poured in from strangers who'd followed our story, from survivors who said we gave them courage to leave their own darkness. That night, we sat on the dock at the lake house, now fully restored, and watched the stars come out one by one. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. Sarah rested hers on Emily's. Somewhere in the distance, a loon called. Emily whispered into the quiet, "It's really over." Sarah smiled. "No, Mom. It's finally beginning." And under a sky wide enough to hold every tear we'd ever cried, the three of us let the past sink gently into the water, light as a teardrop diamond finally set free. 5 years later, a little girl with auburn curls asked why Grandma's necklace only comes out on special nights. She was 4 years old, our granddaughter Lily, sitting on my lap on the same porch where Claire's last letter had arrived. The sun was setting gold over the lake, and Emily was lighting the string lights while Sarah chased fireflies with her husband, Matt. Lily pointed at the necklace resting against Emily's sundress. "Why does Grandma wear the magic tear only sometimes?" Emily knelt beside us, eyes soft. "Because every tear can become a rainbow if you let the light through," she said, touching the diamond. "This one took a long journey to remember how to shine." Sarah walked over, scooped Lily up and kissed her curls. "One day when you're bigger, we'll tell you the whole story, about how love is stronger than fear, and how family can rebuild anything, even when it's been broken into a million pieces." Lily giggled. "Even castles?" "Especially castles," I answered, voice thick. Later that night, after Lily was asleep in the guest room clutching her stuffed loon, the three of us, Mark, Emily and Sarah, sat on the dock like we used to. The adults now, the survivors, the ones who refused to let darkness write the ending. Sarah raised her glass of lemonade. No alcohol tonight, she was 6 months pregnant again. "To the nights we thought would never end," she said. Emily clinked her glass. "And to the mornings that proved us wrong." I looked at them, my warrior wife who came back from the grave, my brave daughter who carried terror so her mother could live, and felt tears rise for the 1000th good reason. Emily slipped her hand into mine. "Remember the first night we came home for good, she whispered. I was terrified the shadows would follow. They tried, Sarah said softly, but we turned on every light we had. We sat in silence as the stars came out, brighter than any diamond. Emily rested her head on my shoulder. Do you ever wonder what Claire's last real thought was? I thought about it. I hope it was the memory of you two little girls sharing secrets under the covers. I hope, just for a second, she remembered she was loved before she forgot how to love. Sarah leaned over and kissed my cheek, then her mum's. She lost the game the moment she forgot family isn't something you control. It's something you choose every single day. The necklace caught the moonlight and threw a tiny prism across the water, one perfect rainbow tear. Emily smiled. And we choose light, every day. Somewhere in the house, Lily murmured in her sleep, safe and dreaming. The past was finally quiet, and the future loud with children's laughter, Sunday dinners, graduation parties, weddings, and ordinary miraculous days stretched out in front of us like the lake at sunrise. We had won not by destroying the darkness, but by refusing to let it dim a single watt of our love. That is the real ending. That is the one we live every morning when we wake up, look at each other, and choose again to shine. 10 years after the nightmare ended, a package arrived addressed to the Harrison family, with no return address. I was 61, hair more salt than pepper, watching our youngest grandchild chase bubbles across the lawn, while Emily, still the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, set the picnic table for our anniversary party. 35 years married, 25 since the night everything almost ended forever. The mail truck stopped at the end of the drive. The driver waved, left a small brown box on the porch and drove away. No stamps, just our names written in careful block letters. Emily saw my face change. Sarah, now a mother of 3, walked over with that same steady gaze she'd had at 22. We brought the box inside, sat at the same kitchen table where we once cried over hospital bracelets and threatening photos, and opened it together. Inside, a single Queen of Spades playing card, edges worn soft. On the back, in handwriting none of us recognized, "Thank you." Under the card lay a flash drive and a folded letter on prison stationery. The letter was from the warden of Claire's facility. Mrs. Claire Blackwood passed peacefully in her sleep last night, exactly 10 years to the day since her final transfer. In accordance with her wishes, we are forwarding this drive and note. She spent her last decade writing, thousands of pages apologizing to victims, detailing every crime she ever committed or ordered, and funding college scholarships anonymously for children of families she harmed. The drive contains signed confessions that have already led to 17 additional arrests and the recovery of over $40 million in hidden assets, all directed to victim restitution funds. She asked that you know she died watching the news story about your family's annual charity run for missing persons. She smiled for the first time in years and said, "They really did win." Emily read the last line aloud, voice breaking on the word "won." Sarah plugged the drive into her laptop, a single video file. Claire, grey, frail, eyes clear for the first time we could remember, looked straight into the camera. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. Good. I don't deserve more of your time. I just needed you to hear it from me, not lawyers or wardens. I was wrong about everything. You 3 showed me love can outlast evil, and I will spend whatever comes after this, trying to balance scales I spent a lifetime tipping. The necklace is yours forever. Wear it in joy, live loudly. And when your grandchildren ask about the lady who tried to break you, tell them even queens can learn to bow when they finally see real strength." The video ended. Emily touched the diamond at her throat, tears falling onto 35 years of shared mornings. Sarah closed the laptop gently. It's really, truly over. I pulled them both into the hug we'd given each other 1,000 times, on motel rubble, courthouse steps, hospital rooms, and quiet Tuesdays when the weight felt too heavy. Outside, the grandchildren laughed. The sun painted everything gold. We walked back to the party holding hands 3 generations strong, because some stories don't end with the villain's defeat. They end years later on an ordinary afternoon, when the last shadow finally chooses light, and the family that love rebuilt gets to live happily, loudly, brightly, unapologetically, ever after. This is our real ending. Thank you for walking this journey with us. Like the video, turn on notifications, subscribe the channel. Your support helps us bring even more powerful stories to life. And remember, every betrayal writes a story. Every story deserves justice.